Welcome to the Break the Stigma podcast, where each episode we focus on raising awareness and debunking the negative stigma behind mental health.
Hey, what's up, guys? My name's Angel.
I'm Kiana.
And this is...
And welcome to
the Break the
Stigma podcast.
This is not
that was just
coordinated over Zoom.
No.
So if you guys are wondering why we're on Zoom today, it's because we have a special guest. As you can see, this third block here. Her name is Morgan. Do you want to introduce yourself to the crowd that is non-existent?
Please do.
Hi guys, I'm Morgan. Hi. I am a college graduate from 2019. I still live with my parents as per usual. And it is a nice and rainy Friday afternoon here in New Jersey.
It is. Weatherman. Thank you. All of us have one thing in common, and that is
eating disorders.
So much fun.
You know what I actually realized before I record? What?
I said Morgan's the reason why we met and know each other.
Yeah, she is. Thanks, Morgan. Hashtag thanks, Morgan.
Hashtag thanks, Morgan.
But I realized before we hopped on today that all of us actually have 3 different eating disorders, technically speaking. Right? Because Kiana, weren't you diagnosed with EDNOS, eating disorder not otherwise specified?
Well, no. OSFED, which was EDNOS.
OSFED.
Other specified feeding or eating disorder.
And
I do all of the things.
I was diagnosed with anorexia nervosa, which I still do not know what the nervosa part means. Does it mean I'm nervous? Because I am.
It means you're nervous.
I'm very nervous. And then Morgan, did you get diagnosed with bulimia? Or
no? So I'm actually diagnosed with anorexia binge purge subtype.
Okay. Oh, cool.
Because
yes.
what they have described to me is that like my binge purge episodes are driven by my periods of like restriction. So like that's how it came into fruition, because I never fit the criteria. I was before I was diagnosed as anorexia binge purge, I was eating disorder not otherwise specified. Because I didn't ever fit the criteria for anything, because I was so all over the place. So after this last stint in treatment, they're like, okay, well, we're going to give you a diagnosis, and this is the diagnosis that you're going to have, and that's the one that we feel fits you best. And I was like, all right, fam.
Do you agree with it?
Yeah, definitely, because what I've always struggled with is that, like, with the idea of having anorexia binge purge subtype, it doesn't mean that I do binge, but it can lead to me having binge episodes. But with my particular set of anorexia, I am very frequently like restricting all of my food, and then at the end of the day, like if I have that one meal, then I have to purge that one meal. So it feels like a binge. It's subjective binge, but it can't be classified as a literal binge, so it just turns into a purge. So I mean, that's where it feels the most understandable for all of that.
Gotcha. And Kiana, do you agree with yours, or would you rather just be basic bulimic?
Yeah, because funny thing, I was, for the most of the eating disorder realm, I have always had like eating disorder otherwise specified. But for a short period of time, I was diagnosed with specifically bulimia. And that's when I felt like the most like, yay, because not yay, but I was glad that I didn't have like something like just, a random eating disorder. It had a name that people knew. Like the other day I was in the ambulance because, I was having heart problems, and they asked like what eating disorder I had. And I told her, and she looked at me like I was crazy, because she only, I guess, assumed only knew the 2.
Yeah.
Or maybe the 3 if you count like binge eating. Well, I do, it is a thing, so 3. So I'm not a huge fan of having it, but again, like Morgan said, it fits my symptoms. Like I do all 3. And and they're sporadic at times when sometimes I will restrict heavily, other times I will binge heavily and not purge, and other times I will purge after I eat or I'll purge after a binge. So it is all craziness all over the place.
Gotcha. For me, I have only ever had the one diagnosis since I was 14. And I mean, I think it stuck pretty well, but I also think that as I got older and like went through puberty more and things started changing, like I also feel like anorexia, just that one word doesn't fit everything that I struggle with, because I do also have episodes of binging. I don't purge, but I do have episodes where I eat a lot and then episodes where I restrict. So I'm not sure where I would fall in that category, because it wouldn't be anorexia binge purge type because I don't purge. So I'm not sure. It's very confusing, the diagnoses, because there's so many different aspects of eating disorders. It's not something like bipolar where you just have mood swings and impulsivity. Like it's like more complex, and I feel like no one with an eating disorder actually has just one set eating disorder. Like it's very more complex than that.
Yeah.
And like the most difficult thing that I find with eating disorders is that as you start to like taper down one of those symptoms, something else almost completely either irrelevant or completely random or something that may just sound like a really good idea to your eating disorder at the time will just pop up. And then it just becomes like batting down each symptom that comes up. And it's just like almost like a never ending battle.
Yeah, me and Kiana were
Yeah.
actually talking about cross addiction, how like when our eating disorder is at bay, then the self-harm like comes out and vice versa.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I definitely feel that way with all of them. Like I've almost been kicked out of programs for like when my eating disorder starts to like kind of calm down, like I'll start using like substances. Like I'll start like drinking more. I'm of age, which is fine, but like I'll start drinking more, and like it's a sober program. They're like, you're not supposed to be drinking, so why are you doing this? It's like, I don't know. Just seems like a good thing to do.
Mm-hmm. But about the cross addiction thing and eating disorder, sometimes it's not even like my whole eating disorder, because I do all the things. So right now in my current Morgan's like, oh God, dear child. But right now my purging has been like more under control. So now the restricting is going up, which is frustrating. And then like a part of me is like, okay, I'm pretty sure I'm not the only one that ranks their symptoms as like good or bad. So like this isn't bad for me, because at least I'm not binging, or at least I'm not purging. So that's even been a struggle.
And I think it's also dangerous too, I also rank my symptoms. But I think it's also dangerous in a sense, because like all of them are equally dangerous. Like all eating disorders are equally dangerous. But for some reason in my mind, like this is gonna sound so selfish, so please excuse me. For some reason, I feel like anorexia is the better of all the eating disorders, because at least I'm losing weight.
Yeah.
Keeping it. And that is my mentality on it. I know it probably sounds like horrible, and obviously that is an eating disorder way of thinking, but like as someone that struggles with both restricting and binging, whenever I'm in my restricting phase, I'm like, okay, this is fine, because I'm doing things to help me get to where my eating disorder wants me to be, and not the other way.
That's so true, though. There was an interview with Jeanette McCurdy, the girl that played Sam on iCarly. She basically said that like no one really wants to be bulimic, no one really wants to like be a binge eater, like, and it's a sad truth. Like anorexia is like the tippy top of like what you want to be in your eating disorder mind. But like you said, Angel, all of them are not. All of them are bad. All of them are not healthy. All of them cause some terrible side effects that you don't want to be in.
I was just saying how it's like a hierarchy. Like there's always been this hierarchy within the eating disorder community, and like even within the community of like the medical field. Like if somebody is anorexic, they're gonna see them and be like, oh well, like if you tell them and like there's like the visible change that like their body, like they are obviously malnourished, like you can be malnourished at any size. Like malnourishment doesn't come from just being underweight. Malnourishment means that you are not getting the nutrients that your body needs in order for it to be sustainable. And like that's what people don't understand. And that stigma follows everyone within this eating disorder community, is that like you can be malnourished at any size because your body won't be able to get the nutrients that it needs to operate on the day-to-day basis. And that's forgotten across all boards.
And I think that that's definitely something I struggle with the most, is the appearance aspect of it, because like, I mean, in my mind, I'm like an average weight. Obviously, we're not going to say numbers because that could be triggering for people. But it, like, I am at an average weight. I'm not under, I'm not overweight according to doctors and BMI and all that bullshit. And
BMI.
Yeah.
Fuck BMI.
And so I struggle a lot when it comes to my diagnosis, because I feel like I don't have the look of an anorexic, and I feel like people won't believe that I struggle with this because I don't fit the thigh gap or the ribs poking out or any of that other bullshit, that like Tumblr anorexia type shit. Like I don't have any of that. And so I definitely struggle with the appearance aspect. And I feel like whenever I was younger, I tried so much harder to restrict because I wanted so badly to fit the look of it.
Yeah, I that's when I first, was like diagnosed with it and first went to treatment for having an eating disorder. The whole idea of like not being sick enough was huge in my brain. Like, at that time I was an average weight, but I think I had to realize, like, even though I was an average weight, I was malnourished, and I also had like these terrible emotional problems that is an eating disorder. Like, like the saying, eating disorders are not just about food.
Yeah.
So it took a lot to like realize, like, yeah, no, this isn't just about the food. It's about, I'm not good with myself.
I actually had that struggle whenever I was in eating disorder treatment. And for the viewers watching or anyone listening, me and Morgan actually met in eating disorder treatment. And I had that issue because their other patients obviously looked more sick than I did, or they fit the stereotype of having eating disorder and I didn't. And so I felt like I didn't deserve to be there as much as the next person because I didn't fit the look and I wasn't as deep in my eating disorder as they were. So why should I be in treatment over them? So I definitely get that.
I think that's like what I think that the thing that stinks that I started my treatment out at Renfrew, it's like a good thing and a bad thing. The good thing was that when I walked into those doors, like for Renfrew, like there was bodies of every size and like people in so many different areas and parts and exposures of this eating disorder. So like my first like experience of it, I have to say I was really lucky at the fact that like I was able to see bodies at every size that are going through the same struggles as I was, especially knowing that like my size does not fit the standard of having anorexia or having even having bulimia at the time. Like my body was I was so judgmental about where my body was. But then like it was so difficult for me to exist in the sphere of treatment that I was in at that time because like Kiana was saying, my mental health was an absolute disaster. So I was like, I wasn't able to take care of myself. I was like, the only thing that I could focus on like every day was like waking up and like just having to put food in my body because I couldn't keep my eyes open because I was just a mess. And it's funny because we were just talking about how Angel and I met in treatment. Kiana and I met in treatment my first time.
I actually didn't know that.
Yeah. So my first time in treatment.
You did it?
There. But the funny thing was that if you were to ask
he was
Kiana
in a coma?
if I was in treatment with her, she'd say no because nobody knew that I existed. Like I was the girl who slept on the couch all day, every day. Like they would just leave me. Like I never went to a group. I would hide until they had to send like the counselors out to find me before meals because I just like wouldn't move. And then come around like the whole full circle, I started treatment at PHP with Kiana and she's like, wait, you were there with me? She's like, when did that happen? And then I've never left treatment since. But fun fact, I do remember having a full-blown conversation with you from, I think this is the only conversation I remember from the entire thing, but you were like one of the people who lived like the closest to me. So then I was like, oh, this girl and I are going to become best friends. And look at us now.
Like, wait, 4 years later, living our best lives.
Living our best.
Do you
Still
guys
in eating disorder treatment.
Yeah, all of us. Do you guys ever feel like at all that, like, I mean, all of us are obviously really good friends and we're all really supportive of each other, but do you ever think that our relationship in some ways could be deemed as like toxic since all of us are still so deep in our eating disorders and struggling with it? Do you ever think of it as like it could be triggering to each other, or are we like all good?
Yes and no. Like, I think different points of my relationship with both of you guys, it was definitely to trigger myself. Yeah, especially with me, Morgan and I, when we were both in PHP together. Remember when we went to Panera one time together, with her boyfriend at the time, and we both got salads, with like barely anything on it, and we both restricted the salads. And we promised ourselves, trying to be like recovery buddies, even though like we knew that we were both not feeling it, that we would eat the rest of the salad when we got home. I know I didn't. I don't know if you did. Yeah. It was so, yes, in some senses, but I feel like now that we're farther along in our recovery, well, I'm like farther along, I wouldn't get triggered as much by like what you guys do or say regarding like meals or whatever, because at the end of the day, I gotta live with my decisions.
Yeah. What about you, Morgan?
I think that's a really hard thing to think about, because like there's always this idea that people shouldn't like become best friends with the people that they go into treatment with, but then at the same time there's also the idea that like so many people find their like forever friends in treatment because like they're the people that understand. Like my girlfriend, I guess we will call her, I also met in treatment, but
And I love her.
But the idea is that like I couldn't see myself like having the conversations that I have with her with any other person, and it's so much easier to like talk about how much I'm actually struggling or like how well I may actually be doing with this person, because like she gets it. Like, and like when talking to you guys, like you guys get it. So like, yeah, there's sometimes where I'll hold back on some of the things that I say and like do things like that, but I always want to hear, because if I don't have a solution and one of you guys do, like I want to hear it, because like getting out of this on your own is nearly impossible.
Yeah, I was gonna say that too. Like being like the worst thing you can do when in recovery from anything, even if it's like alcoholism or anything else, is being alone in it. Like it's too big of, I mean, I don't want to personify it, but it's too big of an asshole disorder to be able to like conquer on your own. So you definitely need to have big like supports around you to help you go through it, because honestly, like I don't know where I would be if I wasn't able to vent to you guys or have meals with you. Like me and Kiana went to Panera every single Tuesday when we were on campus. Like that was like our thing. I don't know, honestly, I don't even know if I would have eaten on Tuesdays without Kiana. Like that was my motivation.
Same.
To get food. So it's definitely like it could be, like you guys said, harmful and really, really helpful at the same time.
Yeah, I agree. And especially like I don't know about you, Morgan, but I know about you, Angel. I'm the only one with like an eating disorder in my family. So there's no one in my immediate like area bubble who gets it. So having you two who get it and understand and know like the ins and outs of it, it's very helpful.
Yeah, I definitely agree, because like my family, like my mom had an eating disorder when she was like in her 20s, so like she's like been through it, but she's just one of those people who's like, well, I toughed it out, like I got myself through it, like you can too. And I'm like,
yeah, toxic positivity.
Yeah, we'll do that. But like other than that, like my siblings, like I have like 2 older sisters and a younger brother. None of them have any clue like what I'm doing half the time. Like they don't realize that like sometimes like just sitting through a meal is like the amount of strength that I can give them for that day. And I think that's like what's really difficult is like having a like not so supportive family versus like a very supportive friend group where you're like, I can get all of the things that I need from my friends, but like when it comes to reaching out to my family and getting the things I need, it just kind of falls short.
Oh yeah,
Right.
definitely.
That's why I
And
definitely, sorry. So that's why I definitely rely on my recovery friends a lot.
yeah, I was
Mhm.
gonna say, like, it's not even that like my family doesn't want to be supportive, it's just that they don't understand. Like they
Yeah.
have no clue. Like what, like me being afraid of hamburgers, like they can't process why the fuck
Mhm.
that's like an issue for me. Like they just think that I'm being crybaby probably. But like, so it's not that like they try their best to support me. Like my mom will say, like, did you eat today or whatnot? But like they like don't, like I can't go to them when I'm struggling because they wouldn't understand like you guys. Like I can go to you guys if I'm like having a trigger food and like having a hard time eating it or things like that. But
We ran
yeah.
out of time on the Zoom thing, so we didn't get to do our whole spiel before the break. But with that being said, we're going to take a short break, and we will see you guys when we come back.
Welcome back
Welcome back,
from the
guys.
break. But so, we wanted to talk about our experiences with our eating disorders and how that all started and all that. So, Angel, let's kick it off with you. How did your eating disorder start?
So I was very severely bullied in my upbringing in middle school, mostly. I was in cheer actually, and that's how it started because I was told that I was too fat to be a cheerleader. Because you know, cheerleaders, there's a stereotype where all cheerleaders have to be like fit and skinny and pretty and all nice, and I wasn't that apparently in middle school as a 13-year-old. So yeah, I started off hearing that all the time from girls that were in cheer with me. Or I have like this distinct memory of whenever I was in lunch, my mom had brought me a muffin from Dunkin', and this girl came up to me and she was like, "That won't help you get the cheerleader body," and she took my muffin and threw it out. And that
Oh my
was like
God.
the first experience that I remember where I just knew that food was not for me. um yeah, that's where it all definitely stemmed from, and then it just grew from there. Like the flashbacks in my mind of the girl taking my muffin and telling me that I don't need it and that I'm not gonna be skinny if I eat a muffin, like that just stuck with me all these years for some reason, and now here I am. On to you, Morgan.
Oh boy. So the first instance where I realized that like like I had a different body from my siblings and my family and like that was supposed to be that's like a bad thing, quote unquote, was like growing up I would get these comments from people saying that, oh, you don't look like your sisters, like wow, your sisters are really really beautiful, like what happened to you, like that those words had actually come out of people's mouths when they've come to like describe me. um and like growing up I had a lot of like familial based judgments on placed upon my body, with like what I was allowed to wear, what I was allowed to go out of the house in and things like that, and this idea that like my body was not my own was something that was kind of normal to me because like my mother would dress me, like she would tell me what I was allowed to walk out of the house in. And so like all of these comments about like, oh, my body doesn't look good in these size clothes, but my body does look good in these size clothes, or like things like that, like it was always dictated by what was being said. My first instance of like the eating disorder actually beginning was in 8th grade. I was hanging out with this one girl, her name was Amber. Um, and we like took a picture. It was on those like really the flip phones. Like you remember the Envies? You all remember the Envies. So I had the
Of
green
course.
one. I had the green one, and it was the big one. It was the Envy first generation. We took a picture on that, and it ended up on my Facebook because it was 8th grade. Like I had just gotten a Facebook. I thought I was all cool. And my stomach happened to be sticking out a little bit. And somebody tagged the picture as like fattest stomach. Like on the picture because like people could anonymously tag people in pictures. Like at the time it was before they had like the facial recognition and all of that. Like it was originally like you would have to tap each person and tag them individually, and somebody did that. And then I like went to the girl. I was like, what do I do about this? Like I'm this what does this mean? Like what do I do? And she's just like, well, like all you gotta do is just like start skipping some meals and stuff like that. And I'm like, what? And she's just like, just watch, I'll show you. And throughout the rest of the year, she taught me how to skip meals, and it's been a little downhill ever since. And that's
Oh
me.
God, these stories are horrible.
What's your story, Kiana?
Yeah, Kiana.
I know. I'm like, these stories are horrible, but like, same. I was also bullied as a child, and in middle school, but it didn't start until I was a sophomore in high school. Again, like y'all know, I don't even know. I think you two know, but I don't know if like I announced this. Probably, I'm a quadruplet. So, like what Morgan was saying about looking at your siblings and not having the same body, literally, I did not have the same body. All of my siblings are tall. I am short, and I've always had like some extra meat, chubbiness. And I was not a fan. So, I transferred to a new high school my sophomore year, BCIT, woot woot. And I decided like, okay, I'm just gonna get into shape, like nothing eating disorder was attached to that. I think I just got like really obsessed with like the over exercising, and then realized like, okay, I just don't have to eat lunch. And then that turned out like I don't have to eat breakfast. And then it turned out like, okay, I don't really need dinner either, and I can just have like snacks. So that's really how like my eating disorder morphed, I was dealing with, depression and self-harm at the time too. So the eating disorder, I like had gone without cutting for like the longest time ever in my life once my eating disorder started. And I didn't even put that together until like later on. Like that was how I dealt with everything.
I wanted to go back to actually what Morgan was saying about like feeling like your body isn't your own. I'm not sure about you, Morgan, but I know me and Kiana have both had like some sort of sexual trauma. So I was gonna say, like, I mean, so since we all have struggled with some sort of sexual trauma in our lifetime, I was gonna say, I think that like going back, like looking back on it now, like, yeah, my eating disorder started from me being heavily bullied. But I think also having to deal with something like that and knowing that my body wasn't my own, I just grew to hate it. And because it wasn't mine, I definitely grew to hate my body and hate myself and feel like I wasn't deserving of being in the body that I am because my body was taken from me, if that makes sense.
So what I was thinking was that like that's like when I was like speaking on most of those terms, like that's like when I first noticed that the eating disorder like appeared. But then when it has morphed over the years, or like even like disappeared and just like reappeared at different times, like it's been like following these like traumatic experiences and these traumatic events where like I have no way to cope with this. So the only thing that's left in my control is like what I'm able to put into my body. And like when like push came to shove, like, and even now it's like hard to say that like going to the eating disorder wouldn't be the first thing that I would go to if like something traumatic happened again. And like that's what's really frustrating, is that like it just is so safe in so many ways, like until a certain point, until it's not anymore, which is the problem with it, is that like getting away from that just is difficult. It's very much in terms of like the things that you feel that you need to control in your life. There's a high pressure on perfectionism, and we all know that there's this idea that we have to strive to be the best that we can be, and anything that we do in order to like make up for the fact that other things in our lives are out of control. And like sometimes like the eating disorder can cause a trauma, but sometimes the trauma can cause the eating disorder, and like it goes both ways, just like me.
But
Swinging both ways, gang. So do you guys want to end the episode with
no.
how our recovery is going now and where we are in
Yeah.
our lovely journey of success or failure or anywhere in between that we are?
Let's talk about Morgan as the guest. How is your recovery journey going?
Tell
right.
everyone where you were in treatment, because I'm very jealous. And
Okay.
So jealous.
So for those of you who don't know me, some of you will know me, that's okay. I just spent the last 4 months in California doing some pretty intensive treatment. I gotta say, it's not all sunshine and rainbows out there. but I spent 4 months there. I did a month and a half of residential treatment, so like close to like 45 days of residential treatment. And then I stepped down into their PHP and IOP program. It was really awesome, and it was a really, really great experience. And honestly, like, I don't think I have, after that whole experience, like, I don't think I've ever been closer to like seeing recovery for what it's really worth and for what it can actually do for me. Um, that doesn't go to show that like there haven't been problems since I've been home, because there have been, because not everything is going to be like a perfectly straight line like once you start getting it. But I can honestly say that like the program that I was in really definitely has changed my view on like how I see recovery and how I see it's like attainable for me, and that's pretty great. And also I want to give a shout out right now to Recovery Record. It's one of the best apps that I have ever used in terms of like treatment and recovery. Like, I have my team members on there, like we message back and forth, they're seeing how I'm doing on a daily basis, and like it really works for you if you work for it. And I just want to say that that's honestly been a really big helpful and a game changer for me.
Okay, Angel, how are you?
Recovery Record
Oh,
is
sorry.
and I used it for the first time actually when I was in PHP. So before I went to residential, and I was introduced, and you can have your dietitian on there, your therapist on there, your psychiatrist on there, your entire treatment team, and you basically log your food and they can see it. And like Morgan was saying, you can come back and forth. They can coach you through meals if you're having a hard time, things like that. So it is really helpful, and I do recommend it for anyone that is struggling with an eating disorder. But my recovery journey, as of right now, I'm not in any specific eating disorder treatment, but I am working very heavily with my current therapist, specifically on food. I have a food journal and a set amount of calories that I'm supposed to meet at every meal. A lot of people think that like calorie counting is an eating disorder behavior, and although like it can be for some people, like whether it's a behavior or not, you have to meet a sufficient amount of calories per meal to be healthy. So where I'm at now, like Morgan was saying, I think I'm pretty damn close to the light at the end of the tunnel, honestly. And that's kind of scary to say, but at the same time, it's like relieving, because I never thought that I would be here. Like if you were to tell me 5-6 years ago that I would be out of this dark place that I'm in, like I wouldn't believe you at all, because I never thought that I would escape it, and I never thought that I would be able to overcome and like talk over the eating disorder voice. But I'm learning to work through it more. So yeah.
That's awesome. I am envious.
Where are you, Kiana?
Well, today was my last day at PHP. So next week I am starting IOP, which I'm excited about. Excited and nervous. But I'm really glad that I will be in IOP and practicing everything that I've learned like in program outside, because I don't have to be there until 4. So a lot of practice.
And for those of you that aren't familiar with like eating disorder terms, PHP is partial hospitalization program, and then after that you step down to IOP, which is an intense outpatient program. So Kiana was doing the PHP, and now she's been doing so well that they stepped her down to IOP, and I'm very, very proud.
To be honest, so the reason why I totally speak like very highly of Asana is that they incorporate movement into their treatment modules. So like movement is a big part of everybody's lives, like whether they are either an athlete or even just like day-to-day movement, like they incorporate that into how they do their program. Like it's one of their core values is that like movement is a part of life, and like it can be very beneficial for some people to learn how to have a healthy like food exercise balance. And they have like entire sessions just discussing like how exercise plays a part in like your movement and like how you view your body and things like that.
It's interesting.
That's awesome.
Especially because in a lot of PHPs and residentials, they strongly prohibit any sort of exercise. Like I remember in Seeds of Hope, we had to get approval from the dietitian to walk to the mailbox. We had to get approval to walk to the mailbox, and that was like a reward. And then also, if you did even better, you got 5 minutes on the treadmill. Whoa. Wow.
What the
Wow.
hell?
With
And
supervision.
then what's that like
No
made
wonder
it
it's
feel really
closed down.
disordered though. Like there's things about that makes it feel very disordered that like, oh, if
It
you're
does.
good, like you earn this. But like with Alsana is that like there's just like the gradual, like in res, this is however, it is like when you're in res, they do like it is very, very minimal exercise. And then you can earn like staff walks. So then you can go around the block with the staff. And then you can earn solo walks, which means that you can go on a 15 to 30-minute solo walk, like by yourself, like with a phone, and you're allowed to like just do whatever you want for like a half hour off property. So like it's kind of just like built into the program where it makes it feel like it's not so like, oh, I ate food today, that means I get to go for a walk. Like,
Yeah, that's really good, definitely, because I felt like really pressured
mhm.
in our NSEEDs. Like it didn't feel like I was being driven to recover. It felt like I was driven to do more behaviors because they just made everything like you had to earn everything. You never like going on a walk is normal. Going on a walk is not eating disorder behavior. Like it can be if you're sprinting and like not stopping until you're passed out, but like going on a walk like is normal behavior. They made everything seem so not normal. Like a 5-minute walk on a treadmill, no one's gonna go to the gym and do a 5-minute walk on a treadmill. So whenever I discharged from residential, I felt like I forgot how to function. Like I literally felt like I still had to ask permission to walk to my own mailbox because they just made it seem so like unrealistic. And that's what I didn't really like about them.
And granted, like we do have to make notice, like mention of the people who are either just beginning in their eating disorder journey and like people who are like really, really struggling within their eating disorders right now, because like there are people who like do have to teach themselves like how to like just like walk to the mailbox and not like think about how many calories they're burning and stuff like that. Cause there's like a lot of people who like are like eating disorder, like anorexia is one of the highest like mortality rates of all mental illnesses, and like that's not talked about enough. And it's also because like these people like they are like forced into treatment and they are like, you aren't going to be able to leave this bed until you get to X weight and are able to function on your own. And so a lot of times they do have to reteach themselves like how to like walk to the mailbox and not think about like the first thing that's in their mind is like, how many calories am I going to burn from this? You know?
Yeah, exactly.
I'm picking up what you're putting down.
I am also picking up what you were putting down. Yay. Well, guys, with that being said, we are going to cut the episode off there.
Oh, now I have to do it.
Yeah, you have to. Okay, thank you. So thank you guys so much for watching, and thank you, Morgan, for joining us on this episode today. It was such a pleasure having you.
Yeah.
We hope that you guys will tune in next time.
Yeah.